Welcome back to our special coverage, remembering the life and legacy of Congressman John Lewis, who served in Congress, Georgia's 5th Congressional District, for 33 years. He has come back home, his adopted home, of course, born in Alabama, but really made Atlanta his home. He served on city council for a short time before running for Congress, and as we know, maintained that seat until his last day. We continue to take a live look at Dobbins Air Reserve Base as that motorcade gets ready to depart and cross Atlanta. Our Karen Greer told us just a short time ago that a number of stops that motorcade was expected to make in locations that were significant to the congressman will not be made now. We're still trying to work out and figure out when that will actually happen. We do know a number of people have likely lined that route, and we do have a number of our colleagues there along that route. Of course, many of them waiting to pay tribute, but right now we understand that motorcade will head directly to the state capitol, where there will be a series of speakers there for special services starting at 2 p.m. with Governor Brian Kemp, and also Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms will make her remarks as well, and there will be private ceremonies, including for the Legislative Black Caucus, as well, in a public viewing that is expected to begin, Greer, at 3 p.m. Not hearing at this point that will be changing, but there's a possibility. Things it appears are very fluid. So as we watch this motorcade here, we do see, of course, a number of Atlanta police officers. The hearse there in the middle, and that bus there in the back is carrying family members of Congressman John Lewis, who we saw get off a flight earlier this morning.
He will lie in state at our state capitol in the overnight hours so that people can pay their respects. But he did that in Washington, D.C., and people were able to file past his casket, actually outside on the steps, the east steps of the Capitol, where he served for so many years. And every single day for the past 5 days, we have celebrated what John Lewis has meant to our state and to this country, each day signifying something important in his life, starting in Alabama, in Troy, Alabama, where he was born, to the church where so many of those where the civil rights movement really began, and some of those rallies began, to that final journey, which, you mentioned a few minutes ago, Tracy, that this might be a teachable moment for so many people. I have to tell you that my family and I watched on Sunday as that caisson went across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Sunday again, right? But this time, instead of blood, there were flower petals lining that bridge, and we wept as we watched. And my 12-year-old twins, we talked about the significance of John Lewis and what he meant to the civil rights movement, not only back then, but what it means for them and their futures going forward. And that really is his legacy. And even when he announced months ago that he was in stage 4 cancer, he continued to fight. I think one of the images that really stands out in my mind as we continue to take a look at that motorcade and Dobbins Air Reserve Base, bringing John Lewis's body back to Atlanta from Washington, D.C. One image that stands out in my mind is that even though his body was frail, his resolve was so strong, is the Black Lives Matter movement. And he is standing there with his mask on, arm in arm, fighting to move forward. Because so much had changed. He said he never thought that he would, in his lifetime, see a black man in the White House. And yet there was Barack Obama, and he was able to give him that Presidential Medal of Freedom. That changed, but so much needs to change. And again, as we look at this, I have to tell you too, that this morning on CBS 46 Morning News, we were reporting about the Confederate statue that came down in McDonough.
Yes.
And I was thinking how significant that was on a day that John Lewis is coming back home. That statue is being removed.
His legacy is long-lasting. It's interesting to see what has happened during his lifetime. 80 years, really almost all of those years of public service. By the time he was 23, I don't remember what I was doing at 23. It certainly wasn't what he had done. By the age of 23, a keynote speaker at the historic March on Washington, of course, with Martin Luther King Jr.
He was speaker number 6.
Yes.
Martin Luther King Jr. was the 10th speaker, and now all 10 are gone. Yeah. He was the last one of those 10.
during his lifetime, some 45 arrests for sitting at lunch counters, fighting for civil rights, part of the Freedom Riders, working to desegregate buses. Really, when you talk about a lifetime of service, it is truly a lifetime of service, and continued the fight and continued to remind people how important it was to vote. Even today, so important to vote. And in the midst of this pandemic, he certainly understood the gravity of it. As you mentioned, one of his last public appearances there in the Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington, D.C. But to his dying day, he was an advocate for civil rights and making sure that everyone had the right to vote.
As we continue to watch this motorcade making its way to the state capitol, we're going to take a break. We'll be streaming this live on CBS46.com.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage, remembering the life and legacy of Congressman John Lewis. The plane carrying John Lewis's casket arrived a short time ago at Dobbins Air Reserve Base. You're looking at live pictures right now of the motorcade as it leaves Dobbins and heads now to the state capitol. Let's head out to CBS 46 anchor Karen Greer. She's live at the Capitol, one of many of our colleagues there as part of this team coverage. As we watch this motorcade here, Karen, we can see a number of people just really right there on the roadway taking pictures. They want to see part of history, which is what is happening today.
Yes, Tracy, Greer, it was very moving to see the hearse moving down that flag-lined street in that residence in Cobb County. The flags were flying as they were driving through with the police escort. So many, look at people on the side of the street with signs. They know that route. They know that he is heading right here to the Georgia State Capitol. Many really out there to pay their final respects, won't perhaps make it here to the Capitol to go into the rotunda and see his body as it lies in state tonight and tomorrow before the funeral tomorrow. But I'm told it should be about 20 to 30 minutes before that procession makes its way here to the state capitol. The plan originally was to stop at some very important sites, important locations dear to Congressman John Lewis's heart. The 10th Street and Piedmont, that rainbow as it's called, crosswalk that was painted at 10th Street around Pride celebrations every year that ended up being able to stay there. The mayor said it could stay. He was a big supporter of the LGBTQ community. So that was one of the places he wanted to stop because he felt like he'd help make a difference there. Also wanted to stop at the birthplace, historic birthplace of his dear friend, the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And he wanted to stop at the Tuttle Court of Appeals, where most of the civil rights cases were heard. And he actually served as the person who helped dedicate that building a few years back. So he wanted, that was probably things that he mentioned because we know he was preparing for this moment for a while. When you talk to friends who knew him, who saw him in these last days, I had heard that he had perhaps talked to his staff, said really how much he loved them and appreciated them before his death. and understand at some point he was talking a lot to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who was a very dear friend. So this, as you see, they are making their way, should be what, 285 to 75, 85 right here at the Capitol. They'll make their way right here, come in the front on Washington Street and stop. And his hearse will remain here. They will take him up the stairs here at the Capitol, where he and his family will be greeted by Governor Kemp and Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. So that is the hearse heading this way. And we've got Haley Mason, who has seen some of the legislators come in from the Georgia Congressional Black Caucus who are here. They are celebrating the congressman's life and going to do a small ceremony, Haley.
Yes, Karen, we are actually just a block down from you, where we are awaiting that motorcade carrying the body of the late Congressman John Lewis. And so many people have gathered all around us to sign this massive sympathy card. We're going to pan over here. We were in Troy when this sympathy card made its way down to Alabama, saying with deepest sympathy from all of us. And people on the inside of the card signed in Alabama. On the outside of the card, they're now signing in Atlanta. This card just made its way back from Washington, D.C. last night. A local probation officer and youth leader has been bringing this card around the country, and he plans to donate it to the Smithsonian Museum. And so just a special tribute to Congressman Lewis as we await this motorcade and the special ceremony inside the rotunda. We do know this afternoon that the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus will have a special ceremony for Congressman Lewis. Governor Kemp and Mayor Bottoms will be speaking inside the rotunda, and the congressman's body will lie in state this evening. I'll move out of the shot so that you can see where some people are starting to line up in the streets. There is a state trooper that just blocked off the road in front of us, and people are with their lawn chairs and umbrellas gathering in the street to take a look and pay respect to Congressman Lewis as his body is brought here this afternoon. We know this ceremony is supposed to start in about an hour and 15 minutes. His body will then lie in state from 3 to 7, and then from 8 to 10, it will lie in state again. And I thought it was so important to note just how much he loves his staff. Karen mentioned that he spoke to them in his last days and shared his appreciation with them, saying goodbye in a way. I've been told that he essentially said goodbye to his staff a couple weeks ago. And overnight, his former staff members, his current congressional staff members, family and friends all gathered inside the U.S. Capitol's rotunda to stay vigil alongside the congressman's casket throughout the night up until 8 o'clock this morning. They took shifts in pairs and made sure they stood beside him. And I do want to note the family again is asking that people please wear masks. When I was in Troy, Alabama, this is one of the masks that they gave us. It says John Lewis, 1940 to 2020, keep the faith, Troy, Troy. And so you may see some people wearing this cloth mask out of respect for the pandemic. The family had passed these out when we were in Troy, Alabama, and today many people we see are wearing their masks, honoring their wishes and also paying respects to this crusader of freedom and civil rights.
Haley, can I ask you a quick question? You were in Troy, and you know, here we are. We've been talking so much about the congressman and his staff and flying in on Nancy Pelosi's plane. Yet when you were in Troy, for those people of Troy, he was just a boy from Troy. He was the boy that they remembered growing up on a sharecropper's farm, preaching to the chickens, never imagining that this is where we would be today. Can you talk a little bit about how they remember him?
Certainly, Gavir. What stands out to me most is talking to John Lewis's sister this past weekend as we stood on the campus of Troy University. Miss Ethel May Lewis Tyner is who I spoke with, and she says, I thought about it last night. I thought about it this morning at the time. The boy from Troy We knew him as Robert. We didn't call him John, she said. His siblings only called him Robert. She says the boy from Troy went to Washington, and now he is back home, and we're so proud and we're so happy that people are honoring him and people are being so nice to him, is what Miss Ethel May told me. And just right outside of Troy, Alabama. Actually, Troy is so rural, but the family grew up on a family farm. John Lewis often tells the story of how his parents, sharecroppers, his dad raised $300 at the time, and their family bought 110 acres of land, and the family bought that land, stayed on that land, raised chickens, as he would often say, was his first audience, the chickens that he raised. He said he wanted to be a preacher growing up, and on that farm, he had to tend to the chickens, and he said that was his first congregation. He would ask them not to fight and not to fuss, and he said when his parents wanted to eat chicken, he would protest the meals and boycott the meals, and that was his first boycott, if you will. And so for people in Troy, yes, that was a special homecoming for them, and it will be very similar for his adopted home of us here in Atlanta.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, you talk about the fact that he wanted to be a preacher, and you know, I think that goes to the heart of who John Lewis was until the very end. I mean, without reproach. There aren't very many people on Capitol Hill, I think, that you might be able to say that about. Perhaps I shouldn't say that, but John Lewis, for one, I think you certainly could say that his heart was always right, that man judges the outside, but God judges your heart. And John Lewis always knew that. All right, we are watching John Lewis being taken by Motorcade to the Georgia State Capitol, and that's where Karen Greer is for us this afternoon. Karen.
Yes, I am with someone who really needs to get inside the Capitol to be a part of the service that's going to be happening in just about 45 minutes. Karen Bennett joining us, head of the Georgia Congressional Black Caucus. Thank you so much for joining us, and representative from District 94. Karen, tell us, this is definitely, I know, a tough time for all of you.
It is, and thank you, Karen. This is a somber day, but it's a great day. It's a day that we all are proud to celebrate and honor our great and beloved Congressman John Lewis.
And I said Congressional Georgia Legislative Black Caucus. You just honored him. I actually emceed the event for you just months ago.
Yes, we honored him with the Soldier of Justice Award, the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, and we were proud to do so. And we just continue to shout praises for him and celebrate him in every way that we can. And
you will be doing the prayer before today's ceremony, which will kick off just right at about 2 o'clock this afternoon. How is that for you? I know it's going to be a solemn, very tough time.
It is, because I knew that John Lewis loved the Lord, and I love the Lord and am a pastor as well. It's my honor to just sing praises to God and thank God for his life and legacy and all of the people that will be there joining us today.
Do you look at your life and perhaps where you would be today if it weren't for the works of Congressman Lewis?
I shudder to think, getting in good trouble, his march for voting rights, his march for justice and equality, and now equity. I don't know where I would be, but I just thank God for the life and legacy of Congressman John Lewis.
And watching the celebrations from his home of Troy to Selma to the nation's capital, ending up back here at home, and we're told 3 former presidents will be in attendance for his ceremony tomorrow. Former President Obama, former President Clinton, and former President Bush. His legacy touching so many.
It touched the world. It has changed the world. And as a testament to his greatness, we will see him revered and recognized by those presidents. And he will be recognized all over the world. There's none other like John Lewis. He's just another king in our history for civil rights, human rights, and justice.
Watching as we see his motorcade heading down the interstate, heading over here to the Capitol, because I understand they're going to be coming straight to us. Capitol Police preparing the street, people lined up along the street. That's really a solemn, bittersweet feeling, isn't it?
It certainly is. It actually brings goosebumps and chills to me to know that he's in that hearse. I've watched the proceedings from as they carried him across the Edmund Pettus Bridge with the rose petals, as they took him off of the Air Force Two in Washington, D.C., as they took him past the Martin Luther King Jr. Monument, and as the hearse stopped on the Black Lives Matter street. It's just been an awesome celebration, one fit for a king.
Absolutely. Looks like they're right at the connector right there. So they are heading here very shortly. They're very close.
And I must get in. So thank you for having me, and God bless you, and we'll see you on the other side.
All right, Representative Bennett, thank you so much for stopping to chat with us. Congressman Lewis, of course, means so much to her and other members of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus who will be celebrating his life inside the Capitol in about 45 minutes from now. That's after the governor and the mayor welcome him and his family, welcome his body here to the Capitol and his family, and they move right on into the rotunda. It has been, I'm sure, a very touching and emotional time for the family of Congressman Lewis as well. We saw getting off the plane, the first one off the plane that was carrying his body was his son, John Miles. John Miles will be presented with a flag by the governor today in those ceremonies that will take place in the Capitol. He has held up very well through all of this. I know, watching his dad go through this cancer diagnosis once he learned about it in December, and watching him try and fight through it. I'm sure it's been a tough time. There is a new documentary out about Congressman Lewis that hopefully many people will get a chance to see. It's called Good Trouble, because if you've known him, if you've heard him speak, you know that's something he spoke of a lot. His books, you know, he even worked on a comic book with someone else to try and make sure his legacy was taught to even the youngest members of our society so that they learned who John Lewis was. Not just the big novels and the autobiographies, but comic books with John Lewis's name on them exist out there, which I'm sure many people will cherish forever. This motorcade, as we said, was going to make several stops along the way at places very important to the congressman, but we can see it is not doing that. It is very close to us here at the Capitol. They will be moving in here. The streets are blocked off, and we understand he will be coming under the flag, which is right at MLK and Washington Street. It is very fitting on this Wednesday at 1:22 that really the city stops. Look at the traffic. It has just stopped. And I know Rodney Harris has been working on routes and which way people were going to be coming, because as you can see, streets are blocked off. But all of that changed. You know, the congressman's family decided we wanted to get right to the Capitol, and we will try and make those very important stops a little later. Right there, it looked like they were right at about 14th Street, right at maybe near Georgia Tech. So we are waiting for them to wind off the interstate there and come down MLK and cross over right here at Washington. We have crews all along this route who are, you know, ready to talk about how important this day is going to be for families. There is a great shot of the motorcade with the bus with families of John Lewis and some very dear friends who have traveled from the nation's capital to be here for the ceremonies here in Atlanta. All right, take a look. I'm watching. It looks like right there I see. Looks like we are. Where are we right now? Tell me.
I'm looking.
Karen, it looks like 10th
10th
Street,
and Piedmont.
possibly.
Oh, no. Hold on,
Yes.
guys. Hold on, guys. Yeah. Now, where are we? This is a family member, a friend of the congressman.
Yes, we are running on time. The congressman landed at Dobbins Air Force Base this morning at approximately 12:10. The motorcade is at 10th and Piedmont. Yes, and live coverage there, and we'll be here on time. And so we're grateful to the city of Atlanta for welcoming him home.
And can I say there was a plan to stop at some of his favorite places? You guys decided to bring him right here.
Absolutely. The congressman obviously was committed to all people, and so we mentioned the Rainbow Crossing. He will also be making a route past his congressional office at the Equitable Building, and then sweeping down Auburn Avenue so that he can go by the mural that was painted in his honor. And so we're so excited to welcome him back home.
Oh, and I know you've been out here helping the family to do this. So we appreciate you for doing that and keeping the press up to date. As we know, we're going to see everything happen right behind us. How long have you been a dear friend of the family.
Hopefully you can see my smile behind this mask. The congressman has been an inspiration and my hero since I was his intern in the early 90s. Yes, and he was the real deal, and anyone who had the honor of knowing him personally will co-sign on that for me. So it's an honor to serve him today.
And you guys started working on this celebration of life a while back. There was a committee of all of you guys who really kind of worked on all of the day's plans because that was something important to him.
Absolutely. A lot of love and attention went into making sure that we are doing everything in the spirit of the congressman. Very humble, very organized, and filled with love.
And there is what?
Oh, there's the rainbow crossing.
It tickles you to see.
It does. It means a lot to me. The congressman, was about equality and justice and freedom for all mankind. And so we just hope that his legacy will continue to live on and that he will continue to inspire generations for eternity.
For eternity. Watching them pause there at that intersection that, we remember that wouldn't have happened years before, Congressman Lewis. It wouldn't have happened years before the mayor saying, it can stay there. It used to just go up for Pride Week, and now it is something that is a permanent fixture here in Atlanta because of, the fights that he had for the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, absolutely. And freedom and equality and equity is certainly worth fighting for. And we're happy that even when we greet him today at the Georgia State Capitol, he will be the first African American to lie in state in the history of the state of Georgia. And what better candidate than the congressman?
Can I say he has made history still all along the way, being the first African American lawmaker in the nation's capital to lie in state was an amazing feat. Still making history, and we don't have him here, but his legacy definitely living on. First African American to lie in state here at the state capitol of Georgia as well. And that ceremony inside, John Miles, his son, will be getting a flag from the governor.
He will. His legacy lives on. And special blessings to all of the people in the city of Atlanta who are joining us to celebrate such a great man and, again, our hero.
Yes, he is. Now, they're going to make their way. Are they going to stop, you think, at the Equitable Building now? Or is that they were planning to come right here? Things keep being fluid.
We're keeping a tight schedule, so they will pause as appropriate, but they will certainly be here at the state capitol on time.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Leilani.
Hey, Karen.
I can't believe I've known her a million years, and she was an intern that long ago. It makes me feel old. Yes, Gravere, I can hear you in my ear.
Hey, I was, everybody that talks about John Lewis talks about just what a nice man he was. And I can echo those sentiments because I had the opportunity to interview him on several occasions when I lived and worked up in Washington, D.C. And so nice, so genuine and so nice. Not a man to get very angry at all, very rarely. But when he did, it was because of injustice. So when you heard John Lewis raise his voice or, speak with such veracity, it was because of injustice. But apart from that, it was just such a kind, gentle heart that he had.
Absolutely, and always giving, no matter who the person was, he was always giving, always listening. If you ever, visited, and I'm sure you did, Gravere, his congressional office there in the nation's capital, it was always full of people, taking meetings, wanted to meet him, wanted to talk to him, school groups of kids, and he always had Coca-Cola to offer you and some peanuts from Georgia. I'll never forget, I would take friends and family there when I'd go to Washington, D.C. because he was always so welcoming. And, you could just tell him you were going to be in town, and he would meet you there. And, one of my John Lewis stories, I remember wanting to go to the inauguration for the first time of President Barack Obama, and I'd asked my congressperson for a ticket because they said, you let them know, you ask them for tickets. My congressman wasn't able to give me one, so I asked Congressman Lewis, and he gave me a ticket to the inauguration. It was such an amazing moment.
Always
so
so
he
generous.
did that for people all over, no matter who you were.
Absolutely,
that's right,
Karen.
So I think we're going to take a break right
we
now,
are.
and I'm going to send it back over to you guys.
As we continue to watch this motorcade move through Midtown Atlanta, we will continue to stream this live on our CBS 46 app. And right now, we are pausing our coverage. We'll see you back here at 2 p.m. Welcome back to our continuing coverage of CBS 46. Right now, we watch the motorcade carrying the casket of Congressman John Lewis move through Midtown Atlanta. Right now, it's on Monroe. As it traverses the city, things have been expedited just a bit, moving pretty rapidly on their way to the state capitol there for services that will begin at 2 p.m. Start of an invitation-only ceremony there. And this is truly one of those days that we heard from State Representative Karen Bennett, who will kick off that ceremony saying it's a somber day, but it's a great day. This is a homegoing celebration. Congressman John Lewis devoted most of his life to serving the state of Georgia and certainly the country, and really fighting for voter rights, for equality, for civil rights. Just a moment ago, we saw the motorcade there pause there at 10th and Piedmont, and between those rainbow crosswalks there, such a moving moment as we see the motorcade there on the right and the hero mural there on the left. The motorcade will be passing by that shortly. But today, Gravir, such an opportunity for so many people. We've seen a number of people line that route despite the pandemic. And so many people are, of course, sheltering in place. Can't even imagine what this would look like if we weren't in the midst of the pandemic. But to see all those people in Midtown Atlanta stand there ready to take a picture to watch his final journey home.
Right. His family had mentioned when he was lying in state up in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol, please, they really implored people, do not make the trip from across the country to come to our nation's capital because of what's happening. But you know what? People did it anyway because they wanted to pay their respects. Our Adam Murphy interviewed a man up in Washington who said, I never met him in person. I wish I had, but this is my opportunity to meet him now and say goodbye and say thank you. And that's what these people want to do. This is literally a part of history. That hero mural, I mean, how appropriate is that?
Exactly.
Karen mentioned, you know what, she was able to reach out to him about the inauguration. But that's on one level. John Lewis didn't care who you were. John Lewis didn't care who you were. He was kind, he was giving, he was generous. He cared about you as a human being, no matter who you were. And I think that's what resonates with so many people from Alabama to Washington, D.C. to here. You know, he flew in, his body flew in today to Dobbins Air Reserve Base on a private plane belonging to Nancy Pelosi. And they were good friends. They were political allies. But I think what you have seen over the last 5 days is even those who were on the opposite side of the aisle from John Lewis could never say that he wasn't a man of integrity. They may not have agreed with him on his politics, but they liked him. And that's rare these days on Capitol Hill, if I may say.
Absolutely, truly a giant. Let's go back out. I believe, Rodney, this is along Freedom Parkway where they are, correct?
Yeah, so Tracy, they are actually following the original route. They're on Freedom Parkway now, and then from there they're going to take you to Boulevard. That's going to take you to the historic MLK district. But as we speak, Tracy Gravir, this is Freedom Parkway, so they are, in fact, going the original route and stopping at all the places that they had originally intended on stopping.
Yep, trying to just make that route as quickly as possible. Let's go back out now to our Karen Greer. She is live at the state capitol where those services will begin in less than a half an hour. And Karen, we know you were able to speak to a few people there who will be part of the services. And yes.
So yeah, ladies, I'm guessing, you know, the thing was they thought they were going to just come straight here, but, you know, they knew the importance of all of those locations that he would want to see. So they figured they would expedite them, not a long pause, but stop and just keep it moving. With me now, Fulton County Commission Chair Rob Pitts, who very good friend of Congressman Lewis. Talk to us about what he meant to you.
Well, most people will remember him as a civil rights hero, leader, icon, etc., or a member of Congress. I have those memories as well. But I most remember him, though, as a colleague when he served on the Atlanta City Council. Most people don't even know that he served on the Atlanta City Council. And frequently, he and I were on different sides of issues. He was a formidable opponent, but well respected. His views, I mean, just John was always John. You know, at that time, he was a staunch neighborhood activist. When you talk about activists, that word really applies to him. And he was the darling of the in-town neighborhoods. I was sort of on the other side, representing business interests in sort of Buckhead. So we clashed quite a bit, in particular on the Presidential Parkway. He fought it tooth and nail. Now, we won in the end, but John was just a very special person. So it's just fitting that he's being honored and given the respect that he really so richly deserved, not only in his native Troy, but going back to Selma, Edmund Pettus Bridge, Washington, D.C., and now resting place, Atlanta, Georgia, a place that he called home.
And Chairman Pitts, we are watching because we are rolling live with our chopper overhead, some of the locations. We said Freedom Parkway, which is now John Lewis.
Ironically, John Lewis. Yeah, we had some battles over it. We were on different sides.
But now named after him. And, you know, another one is the Tuttle Court of Appeals, which was very important to him because a lot of the civil rights cases were fought there.
That's exactly right. So he has meant so much to us. And he was all, when they talk about him being the conscience of Congress, but he was also, I think, much more than that, because when people think about and talk about nonviolence and civility and calmness and respect for others, that's John Lewis.
So you guys going in to the ceremony today?
Yes, I'll be there representing county government. So I'm just honored to have been asked, you know, by the family to come, based upon my relationship with him, first of all, but also being chair of the commission, to show our respect for him on behalf of the 1 million plus people who call Fulton County home.
And you know,
you called Fulton County home.
Absolutely. It's funny you talk about, though, him on Atlanta City Council. A lot of people don't really know how he came to be a congressman.
Well, I do.
And that fight that transpired.
Yeah, those were some difficult times in Atlanta. That really, there were two giants, John Lewis and Julian Bond. In fact, I thought about running in that race, quite frankly, and there was a poll taken that I would have done very well in if I had no interest in going to Washington. But that race pitted the two of them, very good friends at the time, and it really divided the black community. You had the John Lewis supporters, you had the Julian Bond supporters, and then some of us felt that everything that was said should have been kept within the family, but it wasn't. It became public, and I guess the rest is history.
It is history. Yeah. 33 years he's been serving. Thank you so much, Commissioner Pitts.
Thank you.
Chairman Pitts,
Thank
for joining us. We are going to toss it out to our Ashley Thompson, who is over at the mural, which is one of the stops that's going to be made. A nice quick stop there. Ashley.
That's right. Hello, Karen. What a historic day for Atlanta. Atlanta loved the congressman, and the congressman loved Atlanta. So yes, we're right in front of this hero mural. We'll show you what's going on. You can see some of the press down there, and the motorcade is getting ready to roll through. Not sure if you can hear it right now. Let's take a listen. Looks like police are starting to block off this road right now. But yes, this is one of those pivotal stops. Here they come. There's so much history here on Auburn Avenue, as you know. Prior to the civil rights movement, was home to a slew of black businesses and a lively black community. We know the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historical Site is on this street, less than half a mile away. Several influential black churches on this street, other historic landmarks. And yes, we've been showing you this hero mural for days, and this is where people have been continuing to come to lay flowers, to lay posters, to pay their respects. And let's take a look and see exactly where they're coming. Here it is. You can see, stopping right there and just taking it all in. So we will as well. That's just incredibly amazing. You know, this mural was dedicated to the congressman in 2012, and he was here for it. And it embodies everything that he was, a true hero. I mean, so many people over the past several days have been coming out here just to pay their respects, just to say goodbye. And the motorcade is continuing to leave up Auburn Avenue right now. We know they're going to the Capitol. We didn't think they would be making these stops. I know we reported earlier, but these are some very pivotal stops in the congressman's life. So it is humbling to stand here and watch this from our vantage point. You could see so many people just lining the streets just to take a quick glimpse, take some pictures. There's some people waving at the motorcade. Atlanta really showing up to say goodbye to this man who really just meant so much to so many people, who impacted so many lives.
Hey, Ashley,
Karen.
you talk about how humbling it is for us to watch what's happening here. John Lewis was pretty humbled to see his face that big, honored in a way, you know, with that mural, because he was a man who shied away from that kind of thing. You know, it wasn't about John Lewis. It was really about the message and the movement.
No kidding. And you know, you think about somebody like John Lewis, and it really is hard to put into words just how influential and impactful this man's life was for so many lives, including my own. So yes, he was humble and kind of shied away from this, but he definitely deserves this mural. He deserves so much more. All of these streets named after him. We thank him for his 80 years of service.
Yeah, so many of us wouldn't be where we are today if it were not for Congressman John Lewis. Ashley, thank you. You know, it warms your heart really to see those moments of pause when the motorcade stops in front of those locations that were so significant to the congressman, and to think how many times he may have passed by them before, and this is his last journey, the last time he will pass by those locations. Let's head out right now to Haley Mason. She's live at the state capitol, and that will be the final stop for this motorcade, as services will begin there at 2 o'clock. And Haley, you've really covered so many of these days of services, and today we are on the 5th day, which is themed Atlanta's Servant Leader, and it's really all about celebrating Congressman Lewis and all he did for the state of Georgia, and really for the short time he was a city leader.
That's right. We are here in downtown Atlanta on Washington Street, where people have filed into the streets to pay homage to Congressman John Lewis. And as you noted, in the early 80s, he was actually Atlanta City Council member John Lewis before he made his bid for Congress in the 5th Congressional District that he loved and was committed to for more than 3 decades. Right now at the Capitol, we are waiting on the motorcade. I'm going to step out and let you see the honor guard has taken formation just over the shoulder of this trooper, and we are waiting for the motorcade to come down Washington Street. Where the honor guard is standing, we are expecting Governor Kemp to greet the family as the motorcade stops there, and Congressman Lewis's body will be brought up those main stairs. I'm told that Governor Kemp will then present Congressman Lewis's son, John Miles Lewis, with a flag, and they will proceed into the Capitol for a private ceremony with lawmakers, family, and invited guests, as the congressman will then lie in state for the rest of the evening inside the Georgia State Capitol. Really a native son of the South, a gem, an American hero, and a gift to this country, a fearless and courageous crusader who was willing at every turn to lay down his life so that African Americans could have voting rights, so that African Americans could ride on a bus with white citizens as well. And he was pivotal and integral in so much of what we know to be present day American civil rights. And he's being honored as the hero that we have come to know him to be, Karen.
All right, Haley, thank you so much. Yes, we are on the front end of the Capitol where this motorcade will stop. That's the honor guard you were talking about. We've got a shot of them right here waiting to accept his body here on the steps of the Georgia Capitol. This has been really a quick journey from the base here. They made a couple of stops, not very many, because they wanted to get here in a timely manner, as we're told. And we can hear that the motorcade is very close. We've got people lined up all around. Here they are. They're entering right now, lined up along this route, ready to say their goodbyes before the congressman's body is taken into the Capitol. Atlanta police officers strong have escorted him from Dobbins Air Reserve to a couple of stops right here. Let's watch this. And the hearse making its way to the steps of the Georgia Capitol, followed by a bus of friends and family who made the trek from the nation's capital here to Congressman Lewis's final resting place. He will, let me take a pause right here.
Oh, down. I'm gonna go ahead and move up.
And this is Ferris Watkins, the daughter of Willie Watkins, who really is starting to take over her family's legacy. She has traveled with Congressman Lewis's family and that entourage from the nation's capital to here in Atlanta. His sisters, brothers, all the first to go to greet Governor Kemp on the steps of the Capitol. They're going to make sure these 2 bus loads of family and friends are escorted up the steps before the Congressman's body is removed from the hearse here.
And Karen, while you wait for that, just wanted to mention, I mean, it's, surprising the speed at which this motorcade was able to leave Dobbins and really make most of the stops along the route before making it to the Capitol there. I know initially we had thought they weren't going to be able to make those stops, but so moving and so heartwarming for so many of the people who were at those locations
And you should see the
to really
Atlanta
say their
police
final
officers
goodbyes.
who have just helped the Congressman make this trek from Cobb County here to the city of Atlanta this afternoon. The sun has come out, the rain has gone away. It's going to be a very special tribute. We see Governor Kemp and Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms standing at the foot of the stairs there, Mrs. Marty Kemp as well, ready to welcome the Congressman's body into the Capitol. And accompanying Mayor Bottoms is Calvin Smyrie, considered the Dean of the Georgia Legislation. He is going to be making remarks at the service inside the rotunda. And now the family and friends entering behind the Congressman's body.
And Karen, as we watch, it is just so surreal, even from our vantage point here in the studio, to hear complete silence in downtown Atlanta.
Very moving ceremoniously, moving the Congressman's body up these steps of the Capitol. Now, they could have entered in any of the many entrances of the Georgia State Capitol, but they chose these stairs as part of a ceremony. Very fitting, very moving. So the family, it looks like, went up with the Congressman, and many of the friends who traveled along with them on the route are taking the other entrance, the door to the right of the Capitol. They're going to be entering that way.
Now we're taking a live look inside the Capitol Rotunda right now as we await those family members and close friends, and then, of course, the body of the late Congressman John Lewis.
And that service set to begin in